As you all know, there's this very famous case in Hong Kong right now regarding influencer Abby Choi. And to those of you who don't know, she was brutally murdered and she was dismembered. Some of her body parts were placed in a fridge, others were elsewhere. But I wanted to read about it and get all the details, and I happened to stumble upon a certain picture. That picture is of a very dirty Hello Kitty doll. And at first I thought it was just an ad of some sort, but then I found out it was actually related. And it was also another murder case. It turns out that the forensic scientist who was working on the Abby Choi case also happened to work on the murder case revolving around that Hello Kitty. And so today I'm going to tell you a short story about the infamous Hello Kitty murder case. So this takes place back in 1999. Well, 1997 to 1999. And in 1999, a 14-year-old girl walked into a police precinct to tell the police that she was being haunted by a female ghost. And the female ghost looked like she was being bound by electrical wire and she was being tortured. The police at the beginning kind of dismissed her, saying that, okay, she must be pranking us, you know, she probably having a bad dream or something. But very quickly, that 14-year-old girl said, all right, this woman that I'm seeing looks just like the woman that I was involved in killing. Now, with saying all of that, the police had no choice but to investigate. And so the police followed her back to her apartment and searched everywhere. And of course, they found out that someone was dead. The victim in this case, her name was Fan Man Yi. Fan Man Yi was an orphan. She grew out of the orphanage at the age of 15. She unfortunately had an addiction to drugs, and so with no money and that addiction, she turned to prostitution. While she was being a prostitute, she was married to a very abusive husband, to whom she had her child with. Very soon she divorced him and she started getting her life back together by being a hostess at a restaurant. But it all changed when she met a man by the name of Chan Man Lok. Sometimes things fall into place, but not in a good way. For example, Man Yi was a drug addict and she was a prostitute. Man Lok happened to be a drug dealer and a pimp. And so Man Yi joined Man Lok and his group of henchmen. This happened sometime in the year 1997, and towards the end of the year, Man Yi would make one mistake that would cost her everything. Man Yi was desperate for money and drugs, and so one day she decided to just steal Man Lok's wallet. When Man Lok found out that his wallet was stolen by Man Yi, he told his two henchmen to go capture Man Yi. And when they did, she gave the wallet back, but the money that she stole from him was no longer there. The amount was roughly 4,000 Hong Kong dollars back then, so about 500 US dollars back then. So as punishment, Man Lok told Man Yi to be his prostitute so that all the revenue that she would generate would just be used to pay him back. Things very quickly got out of hand when prostitution turned into torture. She was subjected to rape. They tied her up and hanged her from the ceiling and was treated like a punching bag. They also burned her, specifically her feet, so that she wouldn't be able to run away. And sometimes they would force her to eat human feces. That 14-year-old girl that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, she also took part in some of these beatings, including that one time when Man Lok was kicking Man Yi in the head over 50 times. One night, Man Yi just passed away. To get rid of the body, Man Lok told his two henchmen to take the body and cut it up in the tub. After the dismemberment took place, they boiled all the body parts. And the reason for boiling all the body parts is so that there would be no smell of decomposition. When all the boiling is done, some of her body parts were fed to dogs, other parts were discarded like garbage. Her head was actually stuffed inside a Hello Kitty mermaid doll. The same one that I mentioned at the beginning, a very dirty Hello Kitty doll, that was the same one. And when the police went to that 14-year-old girl's apartment to look for a dead body, they found the Hello Kitty doll and they found a skull stuffed inside. And so this was dubbed the Hello Kitty murder case. And even though the word murder was used, those three men, Manlock and the two henchmen, were never convicted of murder, but they were only convicted of manslaughter. And that is because on trial they were unable to conclude whether those three men had any intent of killing Man Yi. They could only conclude that whatever they had done caused the death of Man Yi. Those three men were sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. And as for the 14-year-old girl, she was never convicted of anything because of how young she was and because of her testimony. So pretty much, she got away with everything. Thank you all once again for watching. I really appreciate your support. If you like contents like this, don't forget to subscribe.